Right, so I believe we had a homework question on number 6. So problem number 6 tells us that the directrix is the equation y equals 7. And the focus is the point 0, comma, -7. Now, when we look at our two general equations, well, the directrix, since it is y equals, we were talking about y equals 1 over 4p, parentheses, x minus h squared plus k, because that's the general form. Because the directrix is y equals the two equations, out of the two equations, the one that is y equals 1 over 4p, parentheses, x minus h squared plus k, is the one that has y equals. Now we know that y equals h minus p, because for this one here, the directrix is, actually, no, I had that right, k minus p. And the focus is h comma k plus p. But again, for all of these here, the vertex is at the point 0, 0. For these first ones here, especially that we're doing with 2.31, the vertex will always be 0, 0 on these. Now, knowing that there, well, here y equals 7, k minus p is equal to 7. K is 0, so 0 minus p is equal to 7, or negative p equals 7. The value of p for this here would be what? -7. So in the equation, y equals 1 over 4 times -7. Now, h and k are both 0. So we just need to simplify. Y equals -1 over 4 times 7 is 28. And then we have x squared, because x minus 0 is just going to be x, and it is squared. And that's all we need to do for question number 6. Any other questions on number 6? And then 33, 32. They tell us the directrix is y is equal to 32, 8/3. And they also tell us that the vertex is the point 0, 0. Now, again, just like with the first one, directrix y equals. So again, we're still talking about y equals 1 over 4p parentheses x minus h squared plus k. Now, the vertex does give us the values of h and k, and they are both 0. So in the equation, y equals 1 over 4. I don't know what the value of p is, but I will plug in the values of h and k. Now, for our directrix, well, it is k minus p equals our 8/3, because the directrix general equation is k minus p. So for us here, we have that k minus p equals -8/3. Well, k in our case is 0. So we have that 0 minus p is equal to -8/3, or negative p equals 8/3. So really this is saying that p is equal to what? Now at this point here, I would just plug that into the calculator. 1 over 4 times -8/3. Because we can plug that in and it would give us the answer. And I think it would be negative 330 seconds. Thank you. And then we would have our x squared, because our x minus 0 would just be x, and it is being squared. And we don't really add or subtract. Adding 0 really doesn't add anything, so we can drop it off as well. So the correct answer for 32 would be negative 330 seconds times x squared. Questions on this here? Any other questions on the assignment? Okay. So what we're looking at today is exactly what we were doing yesterday, except the vertex is not at 0, 0. The vertex is going to be at the point h comma k. Now these equations, we've already seen them because we wrote them down the other day on Friday, and we dealt with them then. So this year we'll be dealing with the exact same formulas. It's just now that the values of h and k are not going to be 0 and 0. We're actually going to have values for it. Now if we look at this first one here, they give us the vertex, and they give us the focus. So looking at the graph, what is the vertex for this here? 6, 2. Because even though it goes 3 over, each one is a distance of 2, because we have 1 and then 4. So it's going 2, 4, 6. And again, they're going by 2's on the y-axis, because 2, 4, 6, 8. So this point here is 6, 2. So if this is 6, 7, 8, 10, the focus is 10, 2. Now we did talk about this yesterday, the way that we can use the vertex and focus to figure out which one of the two equations it is. What are we looking for when we look at these two here? So which one has a different number? X, because at the vertex it's 6, at the focus it is 10. Which one of the two general equations does the x value point change from the vertex to focus? X equals or y equals? X, because the vertex is h comma k. The focus is h plus p comma k. The x value changes from the vertex to the focus. Because in the vertex it is just h, and the focus it is what? H plus p. It is changing. The y value of the vertex is k. In the focus, it is still just k. It doesn't change. So that means the general equation for this here is x is equal to 1 over 4p parentheses y minus k squared plus h. Well, there are three variables that we need. We need h, k, and p, because if I have the values of h, k, and p, we can plug in to find the equation, and that's what we're doing here. We're finding the equation. Can anybody tell me what the value of h is? 6. Where did we get that from? The vertex, yes? What's k? 2. Where did we get that from? We could get it from the vertex, or we could get it from the focus, because the value of k is the same in both places, yes? What's the value of p? We don't know, but I do know that the x value of the focus is what? H plus p, yes? So for us, h plus p is equal to 10, because the x value of the focus is 10, yes? Because h is 6, so 6 plus p is equal to 10. if we wanted to write it out, we could say minus 6 from both sides, and P is equal to 4. Okay. Yep. Any questions on how we found the value of P, H, or K? Any questions on this so far? So what do we need to do next? P, H, and K back in, yes? So we'll have X is equal to 1 over 4 parentheses. Well, P is 4 parentheses. Y minus K is 2 close parentheses squared plus. Now this whole equation, there is one thing that we do need to simplify. 1 over 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is? So 1/16 times y minus 2 squared plus 6. Now, we could technically add the 6 in, but in order to do that, I'm going to have to take y minus 2 and multiply it by itself. And then once we finish distributing that out, I have to multiply it by the 1/16, and then we can actually add it in. To add this into our y minus 2, I've got to square it and then multiply before I can add it in. Now, what was the question asking for? The equation of the parabola, yes? Is x equals 1/16 times y minus 2 squared plus 6? Is that the equation of the parabola? Well, yes, isn't it? So even if I did square it and do the timesing and getting it all the way down, that would still just be the same thing, wouldn't it? Just in a different form? So let's just leave it. Let's leave it as that. Because there's no point in doing it if that is the answer. Because if that's the correct answer, leave it there. Any questions on this here? We ready for the next one? I think Callie's ready. Wait for that other shoe to drop, yes? Well, we look at this here. What is the vertex? So again, they're going by 2, so this is -2 for x, and the y value is focus. So this here would be so between the vertex and the focus, is the x or y changing? The x is, yes? So which two of the equations are we using? X equals or y equals? X equals, because that's where the vertex and focus does change. So we're sticking with x is equal to 1 over 4p parentheses y minus k squared plus h. So what's the value of h? What's the value of k? 4. And the value of p is? Well, we don't know yet. So I'm just going to go on and start the formula because we don't know what p is. Y minus k is y minus 4 squared, and h is -2. We can say -2. I just went on and filled in what I knew because the only thing we're really missing is the p, yes? How can I go about finding p? Because the focus is what? H plus p. So here, h plus p is equal to 2. Well, h is So negative 2 plus p is equal to 2. We would add 2 to both sides, telling me that p is equal to 4. Well, we have 1/16 again. This time we have y minus 4 squared minus 2. And that's it. That's all we have for this year. Questions on any of this here? Is this easier or harder than you thought it was going to be? A little bit easier? Yes? I think I'm going to start teaching it this way from here on. Because I don't know if I talked to y'all about this, that I changed it this year, how we covered it, in that I introduced this first. Did y'all feel more comfortable with this coming first now? Because even though it was a little bit tedious in the first, what we did yesterday and Friday, because we kept having to plug in 0, 0, 0, 0 every time, it's the same thing. Because especially once we get something where the vertex is not 0, 0, we're dealing with this. Are we ready for the next one? Yes? Well, look at that. Weren't they nice? They told us that the focus is 1, 0.25. Now, what is the vertex? One, 0. Which one's changing from the vertex to the focus? Y. We can also say which one's not changing, the x, yes? So that means the equation we're working with is our y equals 1 over 4p parentheses x minus h squared plus k. So what's the value of h? K. P. We don't quite know yet, but we know y is equal to 1 over, well, 4. Whenever we do figure out p, we'll plug it in. K minus 1 squared plus 0. I can go on and write it in. I mean, if we left it out, it wouldn't have been any harm because adding 0 doesn't actually do anything. Now, the focus y value, we know that this is taking the place of k plus p, because that's what it says in the general equation, that the focus for this equation, this setup, is h comma k plus p. So the y value of the focus is our k plus p is equal to 0.25. What's the value of k? So we have 0 plus p equals 0.25. But really p is 0.25. Any questions on how we got the value of p? Okay. What is 4 times 0.25? 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Since it's simplified to 1, I don't have to write in 1 times the parentheses, because leaving it out says the exact same thing. So really this here is just the equation y equals x minus 1 squared. questions on this here? Now the focus is going to be our 4, 11 fourths. Our vertex is going to be the point 4, 2. So which one of these two equations are we going to be working with? Y equals 1 over 4p. Parentheses, x minus h squared plus k. Also, whatever the equation is, y equals, the graph should be either opening up or down. If it's x equals, it's going to be open to the left or to the right. And again, we need h, k, and p. Now what is h? K is? And we don't quite know what p is yet. But we can go on and fill in what we know. So we'd have x minus 4 squared plus 2. Now the y value of the focus in the general equation is given to us by what equation? That's our k plus p, isn't it? In the general equation, the focus is h comma k plus p. So if I want to find the value of p, well, k plus p is equal to what? Our 11 fourths, because that's the y value of the focus. Any questions so far? What's the value of k? So 2 plus p equals 11 fourths. So what do we need to do to get p by itself? Subtract 2 from both sides. And we get that p is equal to what? Because you can do 11 fourths minus 2 in the calculator and hit enter. And it should give you 3 fourths. Plug it back in. So we're doing 4 times 3 fourths. Should give us 3. Now, one of the big things, especially with the fractions, we cannot leave a fraction in a fraction or a decimal inside of a fraction. The calculators will simplify it all the way down for us. If the graphing calculator gives us a decimal, we can do the fraction to decimal, decimal to fraction to get it to fix it. The yellow calculator is the button right above enter. We'll do fraction to decimal, decimal to fraction if it is possible. If the fraction is just too ugly, so we're talking about probably 9 over 287 or something like that, it might turn it just straight into a decimal. It might not like that. Any questions on this here? How do we feel with, oh, well, this gave us the vertex and the directrix, not the vertex and the focus, yes? Now, my slide is a little bit different than yours. What does your slide have that mine doesn't? That the directrix is y equals negative 27 over 2, yes? I need to go back and fix that. Because it should say y equals negative 27 over 2 on your note sheet, yes? Okay. Now, having the directrix actually tells us which general equation a lot faster than the vertex and focus did. Because in the two equations, one of them, the directrix is what? Y equals k minus p. The other is x equals h minus p, yes? Well, this says y equals, doesn't it? Which one's directrix has y equals? the one that says y equals 1 over 4p, parentheses, x minus h squared plus k, because I just went over here and looked at the chart, directrix, y equals. Doesn't really matter what the value is because it is y equals for the directrix. That's the equation we're using. Because if it said x equals, we would be using the other one. Now the vertex is still our h comma k, yes? So y equals 1 over 4. Well, we still don't know what p is yet, but we know that h is 5 and k is, plug that in. Since I know what h and k is, they gave it to me in the vertex. Might as well just plug it in. Now, for the directrix, the general equation is what for this one here? It is k minus p. And this here is equal to negative 27 over 2. Well, what is k? So we're saying negative 1 minus p is equal to negative 27 over 2, yes? So what can we do first? Add 1, which tells us negative p is equal to negative 25 over 2. And again, we could do that in a calculator, negative 27 over 2 plus 1, and it should give us negative 25 over 2. Well, and lastly, we can multiply or divide both sides by negative 1, which really just tells us, well, p was negative, it's now positive. The 25 over 2 was negative, it's now going to become positive. If I change the sign of one, I will also change the sign on the other. So the value of p is 25 over 2. So again, just be careful, especially when doing this here, especially with dropping signs. It's very easy to do. So we need to do 4 times 25 over 2, which would be 1/50 times x minus 5 squared minus 1. Questions on this here? So did having the directrix really change what we did? No, except in this time, instead of having h plus p or k plus p, it's just h minus p or k minus p, depending on the setup. So any questions on vertex and directrix here on this one? Okay. I feel like y'all feel comfortable with vertex and focus? Yes? Okay. Don't want to see another one with vertex and directrix. Okay? The vertex, focus, directrix. Okay. Oh, wait. So, yep, I'm just making sure. Let's look at this one here. It gave us the focus and the directrix. Well, the vertex tells me h and k. That's why it's nice. Now the directrix, since it tells me y equals 73/8, I automatically know which equation are we dealing with. Y equals 1 over 4p parentheses x minus h squared plus k. Because the directrix y equals is for our y equals 1 over 4p parentheses x minus h squared plus k. It just connects with those two. We don't know what the value of p is, but I do know what the value of h is. It is 8. And the value of k is 9. 8 and 9. Now what's the general equation for the directrix? K minus P. And this here is going to equal 73/8. Well, what is K? So we have 9 minus P is equal to 73/8. What would we do to both sides? Subtract 9 from both sides, which tells us that negative P is equal to So we can multiply both sides by -1 or divide both sides by -1. And really it's just going to tell me what? That P is equal to Any questions on this so far before we simplify things? Okay. So we do need to do or simplify our 1 over 4 times -1/8. Now we can plug that all into a calculator. I have a feeling you're more comfortable or a little bit faster plugging them into the yellow calculator dealing with fractions, yes? So especially come on the ACT, if you have to type in, especially a fraction in a fraction, or fractions in a fraction, use the yellow calculator if you can type it in faster that way. Because for the graphing calculator, we'd have to go alpha y equals enter. 1 over 4 parentheses, alpha y equals enter. -1 over 8. And if we type the whole thing in, what would we get? -2. Because 4 times -1/8 would be -4/8. 4 over 8 reduces to -1/2. So we have 1 over -1/2 would reduce to -2. And we have parentheses, x minus 8 squared plus 9. And that right there would be our equation. Questions on this here? Okay. So we said we feel good with vertex and focus. Okay, so we're good with problems like that there. And that's different, isn't it? How's this one different than anything we've done so far? We were given what? The focus and directrix. Up to this point, what is one of the two that we were always given? The vertex, yes? So are we given the vertex here? Well, no. So how can we figure out which one of the two general equations it is? The directrix. Because here it says the directrix is what? X equals -65/8, yes? Which one of the two general equations uses a directrix as x equals? The 1 over 4p parentheses y minus k squared plus h. Because it just says x equals. So our general equation we're using is x equals 1 over 4p parentheses y minus k squared plus h. Now in the general equation, the focus is h plus p comma k. The directrix is h minus p, yes? Now did either one of these here, focus or directrix, give me the value of p? Well, no, I have h plus p and h minus p, yes? So we'll leave it. Do I know what the value of k is? -7, it told me that, yes? So we can fill it in. So we could say y minus -7, really a negative and negative make a. So we really can say y plus 7 squared plus, and the value of h is We don't know. Because this time it didn't give us h or p. We couldn't plug either one of those in. But what do we know? I do know that what h plus p is what? Negative 63/8. And what is h minus p? Negative 65/8. We have a system. I have two variables and two equations, yes? We can either add or subtract to solve for 1. Because if I add the two together, well, what is p plus negative p? 0, yes? So I can solve for h. If I subtract it all the way through, h minus h would be 0. It'd solve for p. So we can go on and just add. Now h plus h is 2h. P plus negative p, 0. Whew. What is negative 63/8 plus negative 65/8? Which is? That's very convenient, isn't it? Yeah, again, I would just plug those into the calculator and let it do it. And then we would do what? Scroll down just a hair, and we have h is equal to I can plug that in for h, yes? Because we know what it is now, so we can plug it in to the general equation. What are those? The only thing we're missing now? P, yes? Any questions on how we found h? Okay. I know it erased it. I'm going backwards. I want to get back to this here. Now, we already filled in the fact that we would have minus 8 here for h. Wait a minute. Aren't both of these equations in terms of h and p? Well, we couldn't use them really except together because we didn't know h or p. Do I know one of the two now? Yeah. I'll pick the top one. Negative 8 plus p equals negative 63/8. What can we do to solve for p? Minus negative 8 from both sides, or add 8. Both will work. Eight times 8 is 64. 64 minus 63 would be 1. Or really, if you did negative 63/8 plus 8, you should get 1/8. And what do we need to do? We need to plug it in. And last but not least, we can simplify it. So we can do 4 times 1/8, which is going to be a half, like we had earlier. And 1 over 1/2 is 2. Y plus 7 squared minus 8. And that's it. So really the only one that is a little bit more challenging than the rest is if we're given what? The focus and directrix. Because if we're given the focus and directrix, then we have to do a little bit more work to find the rest. Now, we do have another one with focus and directrix, but we'll stop there because what we're going to do tomorrow is identify the vertex, focus, directrix, and axis of symmetry given the equation. So we're going to go the other direction.